So what have we learned so far? We learned how to create a React application, how to set up Redux with hooks, and how to include Firebase and use the built-in functions to sign up and log in the user. There are still 2 or 3 topics that I want to mention before concluding this class. The first topic is the user ID. And what I mean by that is the Firebase user ID. This is an ID that is generated by Firebase when you create a new user. And it's going to be unique throughout all your authentication records for this specific project. It's very important because that's what you will use to enforce security rules when using other Firebase services like Firebase Firestore or the cloud functions, for example. So Firestore is a very good example. This is a document-oriented database that comes immediately available with your Firebase project. And the thing is, you can access this database directly from your front end without needing a server. So in theory, all the data are accessible from anywhere by anybody, which means that you have to set up very specific rules to ensure the safety of your data. And 99% of those rules will rely on the user ID that we are talking about here. So keep in mind, if you will probably need it for at some point or another. So you will be able to find it in the object return by the authentication functions that we have seen in the last video. The second topic is called the ID token. So this is different from the UID. The ID token is a session token, essentially. So a JWT, again generated by Firebase and encrypted by Firebase, that you will use if you need to access some kind of third-party services. So if you want to use another Firebase service, knowing the UID will be enough because Firebase will take care of checking the token for you. And so essentially, all your security will rely on the user ID. However, if you use a third-party service like your own backend server, you will still need to make sure that the request coming to your server is properly is sent by the user that you are expecting. And the way you do that is by sending the token generated by Firebase and using some Firebase tools on your server to decrypt the token and make all the checks that you need to. So the way you get this token if you ever need it is by using the getIDToken function that I'm showing on the slide right now. And you can very easily find the documentation for it should you need it. On the topic of security, I really want to insist on the fact that everything we have seen so far is useful to log in your user, but you still need to enforce security on the back end. So everything here is to generate a new user and not have to worry about encrypting their password and making sure that you use the right algorithm, etc. So this is the whole purpose of what we have seen so far. However, it's really just the beginning, and it's just the first step in your security policies. It will just provide you with the tools like the user ID or the ID token in order to enforce more security for the other services that you are going to use. in the future. So if you need to store data, you will probably store the UID or along those data in your database, so you know what user those data are referring to, right? So which means that you need to make sure when you store the user ID that the user that is requesting to store the data is really who they say they are. So it's a shortcut to get access to all those identifier and encryption, etc. But you still need to enforce those security measures on in your backend. And that's pretty much concluded now. So let's go for the real conclusion. Here we go. So this is the last slide of the class. I do hope that it was useful, that you learn things, and that it will help you to set up your projects in the future. As for me, you can find me on Twitter with Nekorai2 and on GitHub at the address on the slide. You can also find all the code that I have showed in the class in the public repository on my GitHub account. So if you are lost a little bit, or if you need it, it's right there for you. Please leave some comments. Let me know how I did. If you would like me to address more topics or the same topics in a different way, or more in details, I don't know. I really hope that it's going to be useful to you, and stay, curious to learn all the time. And I'm hoping to see you around sometime. Again, thank you. Thank you very much, and goodbye.